Hey guys. All right, I'm here. And guess what? We have a special guest today. Yay. And it's not just Wendy. Let's turn the camera. We've got Ariel in the house. Let's see. Woo, Ariel.
Hey, much love.
I haven't figured out my sound issues. I haven't figured out how to do the share screen with the sound, or do I have to be in the studio? I'm still learning StreamYard, so
yeah, no worries. It's probably like just something on YouTube, because it shouldn't be like you shouldn't have to change the settings or anything. So hopefully YouTube should decide to change its mind again, right? Because it's so finicky.
Oh, so it's something on their end, huh? So you don't. So even when
I could hear it just now. Were you playing it?
Yeah, I was, but it's probably picking up through my microphone.
That's true. So you want to make sure, I guess, first of all, the obvious, like make sure the video itself is not muted, and then like you can also make sure like the tab itself is not muted. But as long as those two things are good, it should play directly from the tab with sound.
Okay, here we go. Chrome tab. There we go. Share the tab directly. And
it says right there that you got the audio.
Damn. So it allows me to just share one tab at a time on the screen.
Right. And then you can change the like little things down at the bottom, so like full screen, big screen and stuff, so you can hide us and get them going.
All right, cool.
I love One Big Love.
All right, let's do One Big Love. Start it off here.
Cooters are turtle down here. Right. They're called cooters in the South.
Let's start it over.
There's a hole in my bowl, so plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget. There's a hole in my bowl, so plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget.
Hey, stand up's nice. Ground games get sicker. Don't watch my size just because you think you're bigger. I'm like a stepping razor with a Peter Tosh figure. I keep it in the jar, but it ain't clear liquor. Moonshine, country time, and shooting stars flicker. To the rooftop, back when mom and dad were bigger. Put it in the air, and I don't mean squeeze the trigger. Pull it from the stone, and we never have a digger. Oh, whoa, too much info. Whoa. Dirty undercover, they got me at the show. Barney 5 power tripping ground cargoes. Shackle on my wrist to the truck, here we go. Not the first time, hopefully the last though. Policeman, I want to know the road to the show. To check down that body line that burn the dro slow. So since you got the high grade, let me bust the flow.
There's a hole in my bowl, so plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget.
There's a hole in my bowl,
so plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget.
So
plug it with. There's a hole in my pipe, man. Game still tight, man. I was under the weather, but now I feel like hype, man. Everything's on point except we maybe need a hype, man. Brother, you should holler at me. What you thinking? What I'm working with is screaming louder than the fight fan. Stakey like a dirty man, designated white man. Ain't to help me sleep, sativa with my right hand. I smell it in my dreams because I keep it in my nightstand.
Well, fella, I'm sorry to tell you, it's no longer there. I crept with a ninja suit and infrared, you was hardly there. Aware, wrapped in underwear and all your hair. I poofed the L to the dome on the couch and put it in the air. That beautiful purple in the cup. Not sorry if I offended you, but I stole your song and bone so I could finish up that re-song, that naked dank, that high grade prime minister, that we strong, that King Kong, that Cheech-Chong, that finisher.
There's a hole in my bowl,
so
plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget.
So
plug it with a nugget.
There's a hole in my bowl, so plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget. So plug it with a nugget.
Well, it's 420 somewhere on some stoners broke ass watch, so that scientifically proves that it's okay to smoke the pipe. When it's time to smoke the weed, everybody be like me first, but let me write the weed song, cause I do the most research. All I'm trying to convey is that I'm eager to smoke the reef, for the herb runs through my veins until the marijuana's feet hurt. Let life be my teacher, that Babylon is a creature. Everything is recorded and this presentation here's featured. So lights, cannabis, action, take 5 and then go rehearse. I got a weed flavor, beard and resin stains on my t-shirt, so please sir, let the fans blaze down in the bleachers. From the doctors to the lawyers to the judges and thinkers, I'm pretty sure ballers wanna blaze up off that wood bench. Service smoke of the dumpsters and line cooks under hood vents. Of that goodness gracious, I can't wait to get home and taste it. I work all week on my hard work feet and I'ma let it go. So put a cloud in the air if your work day's long. Plug it with a nugget, plug it with a nugget. Drop 20 on gas, gas light still on. Plug it with a nugget. Plug it with a nugget. There's a hole in my bowl. Plug it with a nugget. Plug it with a nugget. Plug it with a nugget. There's a hole in my bowl. Plug it with a nugget. Plug it with a nugget. Plug it with a nugget. Oh. Hey, just to be clear, that song was about a bowl and vegan chicken nuggets. You just plug that hole with your chicken nugget and then eat it and enjoy some.
Unmute the mic. Bam. Hey. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh man, we
Good.
got a new microphone too, so we're kind of testing some new stuff out. Having a little fun.
Nice. This is awesome. So, what is the name of the show? Tell me how you came up with the name. It's so cool.
All right, so Dynamic Flow Lights was part of like a little Instagram thing. I started a few years back, and I dance with a flow staff, and I have a light up one, and I didn't do anything with it. We made like a cool sign, which is
I forgot to put
it's
that
right
up.
here.
Oh wow!
And I would street dance on the streets of Olympia.
That's so dope, man.
Thank you.
So
That is beautiful.
welcome to Dynamic Flow Lights.
Cool.
It got a little beat up. I need to retouch it here and there, but yeah, it was really fun to do.
So
That looks
So-
like fun.
yeah, that's kind of always been a little thing in the background. And when I was trying to come up with a unique name for the show itself, you know, my
Yeah.
channel has a pretty cool name, but I was like, I need another thing that somebody could look me up with.
Right.
And so Dynamic Flow Lights just popped in. It was like the day of that we are going to do our first show. I was like, I'm going to call it Dynamic Flow Lights. And I was like, you know, there's many things part of that. Dynamic, you know, is explosive, you know, like dynamo.
Yeah.
And then flow is the energy, the current. And then light is like truth. So it's like the
Right.
explosive flow of truth.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's super unique.
That's Dynamic Flow Lights.
Dynamic. Right.
So today is going to be on self-control. You know, the first episode was on faith, and the second one was on imagination, and we covered a couple of people. For faith, we covered Nicholas. What is it?
Tartaglia?
Yeah, Tartaglia. He was Tartaglia. Man, I had it before I started the show, and now I'm so nervous I lost it. All right.
Don't be
But
nervous.
then we covered Alexander Neapunov and chaos theory with imagination and how there's stability even in things chaotic, and imagination is kind of part of that. And then that kind of bridges, hello kitty, that bridges into what we're talking about now is self-control. And it's something that I deal with pretty much on a daily basis. I'm autistic, and I deal with a lot of input and feedback, and I deal with absorption of energy and things of that nature. And so I've actually had to learn through a lifelong process how to even just control myself little by little. Hey, Singe, thanks for coming. Nice to see you. And nice to see you too, Lindsay. I'm going to do shout outs too. That's another thing, part of this. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I can throw up banners now. Woo. All right.
I love those, right?
Yeah, this is cool. All right. So learning how to control myself. I mean, I don't normally curse in my daily speech and how I talk and things like that. But what happens is I have these cursing fits. I have these breakdowns where I lose control, and I start cursing uncontrollably, and it just comes out. And it's like the hardest thing, because afterwards, come on, Kitty. All right, we gotta go. Afterwards, you know, I feel bad for like even what I say or do. It's just and just for the lack of control at the time. Choking out. Why? Because of the cat hair. You all right?
Yeah.
All right. So, without being able to find a way to deal with that. It's like it's cost me friendships and things like that because they didn't know it. But when I was a kid, I was a foster kid, and it was really before they knew what autism was. So what would happen is I'd have a fit, and then I would lose that home. Essentially, I'd have to move to a different home because of, you know, an autistic fit, a breakdown, and in my control, in my own self-control. So step one is becoming aware of it, you know, and that's pretty much for every problem is finding what the problem is and becoming aware of it. And then step two for me is like catching yourself within it. So when it happens, and it's like something that you want to change within yourself, so you start noticing when you do it more. It's not subconscious anymore. It becomes more conscious. So I took my emotional reactions and I made them conscious. I made myself very aware of them. And, you know, there's definitely a process through that where you start trying to figure out where your emotions come from. And sometimes they weren't even coming from me. See, that's the kicker is empathic people. And I think autistic people might naturally be empathic. I can only speak for myself, but or people who become tapped in become empathic as well. But you can absorb emotions from other places and things and not even have it be your own. And being able to recognize that as well is definitely a tool, a good key to help. How about you, Wendy? You want to talk for a minute?
Self-control. Yeah, I have a pretty bad temper. It's been a real challenge in my later teen years and on through adulthood. Because when I was younger, you know, I grew up in a really weird household. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but you know, we weren't the kids that my mom babysat and we would, you know, get roughhouse and fight. And, you know, since it was the 80s, the rule was we'll go outside and beat each other up. And that's what I did. I had free reign to just beat the crap out of kids.
Wow.
And you know, the rule was, you know, don't start fights, but you better finish them. So it was like, you know, I was raised like a boy. It was really weird. But I was expected to wear dresses too. So I think a lot of where my temper and anger comes from is just never really understanding what's expected of me, because you know, people say one thing and then they do another, and then you're supposed to act like it's no big deal. Like, no, wait, I should be able to get mad and I should be able to tell you you're an asshole. So you just stand there and don't talk back to me, because that's just going to make me madder. Just stand there and take it. I'm tiny. You know, I'm not going to do much harm. Just let me yell.
Right. Yeah, seriously though.
And I vent a lot. Customer service jobs, and it's just it's not a good fit. I was great in the medical field, and we were talking about that on the phone right before this. In the medical field, I had the patience of a saint. I could do a one-on-one 12-hour shift with a patient who is screaming all night, crap themselves, and you got to clean them up and then continue listening to them scream all night. And I could do that. I had the patience for that. But when it comes to working in a deli and some zombie-eyed mook comes up to the case and just goes, give me one of those, I'm just like, whoa. And that's where I get pissed off. What do you mean one of those? Can you use your wordy words in your mouth? And at least figure out what color the food is, because there's lots of different things in here, lots of different shapes. One of those does not cut it. Thank you. And that's hard. I don't like it very much. And so I have to have immense self-control just to not go off on somebody or throw their food at them or something. It's really hard for me to rein it in.
Yeah. You start to like try not to notice things going on in order to not let it affect you so much. But even then, without actually dealing with it and fixing, like reprogramming your brain literally, it affects you more when you do see it. I mean, people like wearing masks. I mean, I tried to avoid it for so long, and now I have to see it pretty much on a daily basis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I wasn't working when all this first hit, and so I could just be at home in my little bubble and things like that. But I decided I wanted to do more, and so I went back out into the world, and they're talking about, they just lifted the mandates at all the schools here in my town.
Really? Well, that is a step in the right direction.
There's not a lot of schools in Washington with it lifted. In fact, they sent the news here and everything to make a big deal about it.
Wow.
So I'm hoping we're moving towards that. I don't wear a face covering, a face diaper. I refused, and I'm such a good worker. They actually bought me plastic face shields to wear over my face, so I can still breathe just fine.
But it's still annoying because all that air comes back at you. I used to have to wear one as a dialysis tech. Those things still suck.
And when you talk, it's like you're yelling at yourself all day.
And you give yourself a steam shower with inside the plastic, because I've seen the water droplets.
Yeah.
It's
oh gosh, man.
It's no better. Don't let them
You're
fool
very
you.
aware on that plastic shield when you see it. You
Yeah.
see what comes out of your mouth, and it's no good.
No.
So,
They tried to get me to wear one of those around my head when I worked at a plant building refrigerators for Frigidaire.
Actually sounds like something I like to do. Oh, but no. Yeah. I'm so fed up with the masks. I haven't really been able to escape it, except for when I worked at a girls' group home that's an hour away from here. It was a BRS home, so these girls were physically violent and sexually violent, and so there was no mask at the home because it's their home, which was great. But the trade-off was, well, you've got 6 girls who, for overall, most of them were pretty good considering, but there was this one kid that assaulted every staff member the month of October.
What?
Yeah, stabbed my coworker with colored pencils the day that I was working with him.
Self-control. You had to use a lot of self-control.
A lot of self-control. You can't hit them.
I mean, well, and you're a creature of love, and they would take advantage of it. It was like it was a strange place where
it was
like
hard boundaries, but love them still. But they'll use it against you because these kids could be really manipulative.
Yeah.
But I did great at that job too. I did great. I must have had at least some kind of respect because, like I said, I was the only one that didn't get assaulted.
Right.
Because, well, I was honest with them. When we go for, I had to take them somewhere or whatever, I'd let them talk about what they wanted. Like when they had questions, I would answer them. And it would often come back to the mask issue or the other issues. And I would be honest, like you can't just offer your opinion on what you think. But if they ask you for your opinion on what you think, you can tell them. I was advised to repeat the narrative.
Of course.
I said what I wanted. And that's probably another reason why those kids, we worked really well together. But at the same time, the owner is not a great person. I still... Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and it was an hour away, and I was spending $200 a month on gas.
Oof.
Just to get to work. And then our first snowstorm hit, I think, a couple of days or a week after I took the new job. That's only 2 blocks at the deli from our home.
There you go.
Yeah. So I would have been trapped at work if that snowstorm would have hit. When I was down there. Yeah. Yeah. So
that's crazy. But no, $200 on gas, that's ridiculous.
It is. It's a lot. And to put up with somebody who's constantly lying to you and manipulating you. And I'm talking about the boss. I mean, the kids, it's one thing. You expect that from them. But when it's the owner who's supposed to be a good religious person, still throwing out red flags and lying and manipulating, no.
But seriously though, but isn't that like the complete narrative, right? I mean, the religious person is always the one who is the one lying and doing
the self-appointed saints acting like not a saint. I'm so shocked.
I'm so shocked.
So shocked.
Oh gosh.
So you want to take it back now?
Oh yeah, no, I don't mind. I'm just trying to run it over in my head a little bit. So I also had another song from Media Bear I was gonna play later. So that's cool. All right. Well, my last show here, let's do share screen. Bam. I did on imagination. I just wanted to show like a quick thing, the list of remakes for movies, and this isn't even television shows or books. I was just like the lack of imagination this day and
Oh
age.
wow.
And this is just A through M. It's just
What?
tons
wow.
and tons and tons
Holy crap.
of remakes. And there's lots of new ideas, there's lots of new combinations, but not new ones that fit the narrative. So,
Right.
No, because you know,
so they have to rehash the
Yeah.
ones that fit the narrative.
And you know what? Oh my gosh, this just occurred to me just now. Not only do they rehash the narrative because like it's nostalgia, right? Like people have a certain type of feeling associated with, certain big blockbuster hits, right? But then, okay, so talking about the narrative, if they would try to make more movies like that today, that would push the narrative. I mean, I feel like people would see through it. So it's like, let's go ahead and just remake another one, add some more subliminal messages. That way they have so much nostalgia, they don't read through it and see through it.
Yeah, a lot of the Easter eggs for the revelation of method is in anime.
I love anime.
Yeah.
I guess I used to.
Psychopaths. Highly clickable. Yeah, what really makes me mad is we had it on our Hulu to watch list, and I just couldn't get them to watch it because it's a new show. But I started telling other people about it, and then I came home one day and went on the app, and I saw that the show was going to expire in 10 days. I was like, what? I started watching it again. I'm telling all these people to watch it, and now it expired.
Oh no!
But it's really good. I gotta buy it.
Psychopaths.
Yeah, Psychopaths.
Yeah, it's all about emotions and them controlling emotions.
Well,
that's
very controlled society, but
yeah, it's
we're painfully close. We're a little too close to it actually happening, which freaks me out.
So when I was coming up with something for self-control and understanding it, I thought of the spirals, because there's a inward spiral to understand, but there's also a spiral outward where there's like things get out of your control and things spiral. They literally, the term is spiral out of control. So that's where I started in my my thought process there. So it's a research into spirals, and of course you run into Fibonacci and the Fibonacci spiral. And I was real interested in Fibonacci. I'm like, all right, who's this guy Fibonacci, that this famous spiral that seems life, so many things in life literally are connected to. I mean, and they are connecting it to what's also the golden ratio, which we'll go over. I'm a little nervous. There's a little vibration in my voice, but
hey, dude,
okay,
you're already
over
on track. That you're
I'll
supposed
get
to be
over it.
nervous. So
So we're going into Fibonacci, and first thing you figure out is Fibonacci is not his name.
It's a fib.
Okay.
Wow.
Fib and Fibonacci.
fib.
In fact, Fibonacci wasn't given to him until the 1800s as a name, which, yeah, you'll see like that was a name later given to him. He was called Leonardo of Pisa, or Leonardo Bonacci.
Bonacci.
And Fibonacci was a nickname to him. Well, as you start to look into him a little bit more, he spent a lot of his time not in Italy, but growing up in a North African port known as Bergia, and it's in Algeria. And he studied through there from Arabic masters from Egypt, Syria, Greece, Sicily, where he learned his numerical systems and methods according to the narrative. Now I say according to the narrative because the first place I started looking into is, okay, the person that taught him, who taught them, who taught them. I kind of went down that and found it all the way back to the Greek, Diophantus, and whose work comes from Alexandria, which might come from the Library of Alexandria. But I also looked into the city where he grew up. Well, the name of the city, the old name, is called Lie. The translation for that is Lie. So just starting there, named it Fibonacci, and the city where he's from, both having Lie connected to it. Okay.
Wow.
Now, I looked into this city and I found some interesting things in it. I found this old photo. This is from 1870, but there's a few interests we all kind of have, and one of them being star forts. And if you look back in this photo a little bit, you kind of see there's a star fort here. Well, come to find out, a few wars have ravaged the city. The first one being the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon landed here sometime in the 1800s. Here we go. 1865 is a picture of Napoleon landing. Let's see. So this is, and I've got, I know, Shutterstock in the background now. I'm not that profesh yet. I don't have enough time with my job to
Listen,
guys,
this is
but I'll start
perfect.
doing image searches and finding the better forms. But this is still, it gives you a little outline of this city, and it already looks like it's in crumble, even when Napoleon's getting here. So it's a very interesting old world city. And then here's some interesting photos from it. This one I also found quite interesting because it showed a little bit more of the landscape and a little bit more of this almost medieval type architecture that we're starting to find kind of everywhere.
No, that is
And
really
I
cool.
bet you if you start looking deeper into it, you're going to find that it's actually red brick.
No way.
So it gets more interesting as, you know, of course it's going to be red brick, you know, because this architecture is everywhere. Now this is Monkey Peak, one of the famous peaks of the area, overlooking. Those are the Atlas Mountains in the background. Gonna do a dive into the Atlas Mountains someday. They're definitely very interesting and old. I'm cold and hot at the same time. So I'm just
okay.
So I found this map very interesting. Of the
Is that
old
what
city.
this is a map?
Yeah, this is a map.
What
old
map?
cities.
Is this a map of the realms? Like
Of Algiers. This is the North African coast. This is supposed to be, I think, the North African coast.
oh
And
wow.
which would be Morocco, Algiers, and Egypt.
That is not how
And I have to do some placement, but man, it just, whatever this place used to look like, it was
Right.
amazing. I mean, look at this island out here and this city. I mean, it's a major port. So, and then when you go back, okay, if you go back and you start looking at this, you go, yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Okay?
I
You
see
start,
it.
okay, you compare that to this, and you're like, okay, this is that destroyed. This is 1800s, and that's even before that. So once you start going forward in time, even farther back, a little bit farther back than that, okay, it's still a star fort. It's still built up in the background. Okay. So as time went on, they crumbled it down, this old world. Okay, starting with, you know, sometime in the 1800s, as everybody seems to place it back as they start to break down the old world and build up the new one. So now we're going back to Fibonacci. Fibonacci wrote 4 books, I believe. 3 of them are real easy to find and real famous. The one that isn't, the one that even the Wikipedia link is deleted too. I of course I'm going to Google it anyways. And it's probably because it's lesser known works, but it's because this book has to deal with finding the area of a curve and having to do with unique ways in order to find the area of a curve. let's see. So, and let's see. And why is that significant? Well, it's because the Romans, the Catholics, the leaders, the ones who are writing the narrative, whoever they may be, they were really interested in trying to figure out the area of Earth, of the plane. They were trying to figure it out so they can make their math match. Okay. So they wanted to get as close to it as possible. What they had was the charts of James Cook. They had the charts of Magellan. They had the charts of their sailors bouncing off the ice wall. Okay. As you see in this picture over here, you see you're using the edges of the curve, but not the diameter itself to find the area of it. And it's an interesting way to do it. But if you didn't know exactly how big it was and you kept bouncing off the edges, they were trying to find different ways to figure out this area, I believe. So they were applying all of their knowledge together in order to build their narrative. And Fibonacci, whether he's real or fake, was a tool in applying that knowledge. Going back to Fibonacci and his time span, okay, he died in 1202 or 1240, they say. The book was written in 1202. Born in 1170, so that puts him, late Middle Ages, just before the Renaissance. Okay, very interesting. Well, the Fibonacci sequence, if to understand it, here we go. Okay, is pretty easy when you first break it down. Okay, you just add the previous number before it. So this is a complex way of looking at it. This is doing it as a function, but really just take that first line over here, and 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 3, 3 + 2 = 5, 5 + 2 = 8. Okay. Now, what they did over here in the ratio is they compared the first number to the second number and to see how far off it is. Okay. So 1, 1, 1, is the same. 2 to 1 is off by 2. Okay, it's 1, 5 compared to the number before it. And then the third ratio is the comparison of the ratio itself, of the golden ratio. So this is what the golden ratio, if you come farther down, it's 1.618 is the golden ratio. That's it. That's the numbers. But it's very interesting. If you see at the beginning of the Fibonacci sequence, there's actually a few stutter steps in the golden ratio. It doesn't quite work out. In fact, the second ratio shows that it's not perfect in the beginning. In fact, it's got to work itself out over time. Okay. So as far as like self-control goes, this shows like things do work themselves out and you have to give it time. You're not going to solve certain problems right away. Sometimes it takes up to 21 tries to find that golden ratio. Okay. And how many days did they say it start to create a habit? It says about 3 weeks, about 21. It's very interesting that number is involved even in the golden ratio, where it takes until the 22nd number in order to find its rhythm and to make that ratio perfect. And if you were to go down, it would continue on being perfect. But it takes a moment. So you have to give it a little time. And there's things about like when you feel a little bit too emotional. There's an old allegory about a king who was upset, and he called to all his wise men to make him a potion or give him a food or something that would stop him from being upset. And of course, no one could. And finally, a jeweler gave him a ring that satisfied him, and inscribed on the inside of the ring, it said, "This too shall pass." And that's one of those keys that I've used for self-control, is when I start feeling myself get over emotional, start getting upset, I give it a moment and I allow it to pass. I allow that first wave to pass and allow myself to think first before I react. And that slows down my reaction time. So this golden ratio gets confusing because they call it the Greek word pi. Okay, the 1.61. Now I started looking, I was like, oh, golden ratio, 1.61. Is that what Fibonacci is famous for? No, he's famous for the sequence, not for the ratio, because you start looking into the history of the golden ratio, and the golden ratio goes way back. It goes back to 200-300 BC.
Wow.
Like, what? What do you mean? Fibonacci is named for the Fibonacci sequence, and the ratio, which I would devise that ratio, calculating the ratio, is a lot harder than just finding that sequence of 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. But the ratio itself was actually probably more difficult, okay? That 1.618 ratio. And yet, when you go to the Great Pyramids and the Parthenon and things like that, they seem to follow this golden ratio, okay? So you have to, and there's a reason why the pyramids are still a mystery, because they can't find a way to fit it into the narrative. It doesn't fit at any point. So there's lots of elements, they say, referring back to it. Euclid is a writer. He's known for Euclid geometry. It said in India, they've also found writings of it. Okay. So I found that very, very interesting that the ratio itself goes back way deeper in time. Now, on this page, I took a little tangent because I was like, yeah, the ratio has also been used in modern times to discover quasi-crystals. It appeared again, this new ratio, okay, in quasi-crystals. I said, what? Well, quasi-crystals, a new form of matter, okay? So I had to click on that. So let's find out what this new form of matter is, and it's very interesting. It's irregular crystal patterns that never repeat themselves, okay? And they are they weren't even considered real, but this is what I think. I think our firmament is a quasi-crystal, okay? So up above us is this crystal pattern that mainstream science didn't think existed, but has always existed and even existed within the Fibonacci sequence as part of it. And it's a non-repeatable sequence, and it allows for irregular shapes and things like that. But I've seen some cool graphics of people playing around with crystals and just using lights and creating, star patterns on their ceilings and things like that. And so if we are dealing with some sort of anode cathode energy ball shining through a crystal, maybe it's all connected. So I was just kind of going to that. It was very interesting.
That was a very, very cool line of thought. And I would be most interested in getting more information.
I originally found like a news article talking about visceral glass, and they're trying to study this glass that hardened over millions of years, and they couldn't recreate it. And it made me think of, it was when I first started diving into flat Earth in 2015. It made me think of firmament, and that's what led me on the lines to think that we were in a dome, because I was like, well, they're studying this and they're trying to find information on it, but they're being kind of hush about it. They're doing it only on the university level and just trying to get people interested in the glass itself, and not in where did we get the idea for this glass, or where did it come from. So these crystals may also be part of that. And now when I look up the words visceral glass, I find nothing. So I think,
of course,
I think quasi crystals might be visceral glass, maybe, I don't know.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
But they're talking about this tech is also used to make 2D into 3D and things like that. So how do you take something 2D and make it 3D? Well, I've seen a lot of experimentation with making something look 3D, you know, or give it a 3-dimensional shape. So
Yeah.
something that. So this morning I found it awesome that I woke up this morning, and let me share the correct one. Let's see. Share the tab. Oh, it's not even in order on here. That's nice of them. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I woke up this morning and I see Fibonacci cipher right on my YouTube feed. I mean, like on my alert. I just started watching the Syncretism Society with Santos Bonacci.
Yes, Bonacci.
Santos Bonacci. Okay, so there's a lot of synchronicity involved here, and we start to connect the dots a little bit. And I was watching him, and he actually took the Fibonacci sequence and wrote a new cipher. So I'm going to play a little bit of this and kind of
the outcomes
give myself
just
a break.
just get too large, and I understand why that would be and why he went this route. But I decided to really go with what nature has to say. So when you look at the Fibonacci sequence, obviously here's some of the numbers. And yes, as Derek mentioned to me, these numbers get quite large as you go along. And if you get up to the 52nd Fibonacci number, it's going to be a very big number. And to fit it into this cipher, it would take up too much room. So I decided to reduce the numbers down to single digits. And man, I have a demonstration to show all of you, show you the power in this. So for instance, I use this website right here to get all my numbers. This is called zeptomath.com. You can type in any number and it gives you the Fibonacci number and the outcome. So for instance, the number 26, which would represent the letter Z. When you calculate that, here it is, and obviously it's a big number, but if you put this into the outcome here, it gives you the number 19, and then it reduces down to the number 1, and there it is. There's the letter Z with the number 1. I can take the 13th letter, the letter M. We can go back to the calculation here, and we can get the outcome, and there it is, the 233, simple math. It's going to give you the number 8, and there's the number 8. So I've done this with all 52 letters, the capital and the lowercase, and reduced them all down to single digits. So let's have at it, folks. Here's the demonstration. And again, I hope Derek incorporates this, but you'll have to do things by hand as I have done. I've created some graphics with this, but here it is. Just wanted to really quickly show you the overlay. Those of you that want to start using this by hand to get some outcomes and see what you can come up with. But, you know, using the 1 through 26 and 27 through 52 and incorporating this powerful cipher. So let's have at it. Let's start with this. It's going to be a short demonstration. I have about 15 or 20 slides. It's not going to be a long one. I don't know how long it's going to go, but nonetheless, let's get started with this. The word G-O-D, the God. You do the lowercase, you can do the uppercase. I'm going to do both. It's the 14. I want you to notice that it's a permutation. That's a mathematical expression for a number anagram, is matching Chaldean's 374. Chaldean seems to fit very, very nicely into this Fibonacci extended cipher that I've named it. And there it is, the 14. And we know, you know, the word time equals 14. The word Satan equals 14 and 3.14. So there is a lot of say in what this is showing right here. Let's keep going. If you say the words 4, 7, 3, and you break that down using this cipher, you're going to get the number 69, which is the yin yang. So, of course, the 3.14 pi and the God of time and Satan and all this is the number 69, representing duality, which is what we all live under. If we capitalize the G-O-D, we come up with a different outcome. It's the 748, and that totals up the number 19, which of course is tied to the word master in Chaldean. The word chess equals 19. But if we bring it into the string of pi, just to give you another variation, using straight up mathematics, look at where this number 748 found from the single digits of the G-O-D in capital letters. It's 320, 321, and yeah, the 322. So most of you should have bells go off. You know what this means. And this organization, guess what they're run by? They're not doing things without the orchestration of the GOD, whatever that looks like. They are under the guise, just like all of us are under the guise of the GOD and then some. 19, of course, is tied to the tarot, and it has its say.
Okay. Stop.
That is super fascinating, though. Will you please drop that link? Because I was gonna keep watching it. I kind of forgot we was streaming. Like
That was really cool.
yeah, it was.
Link, and it's posted as well. Here's the link. Hey, Three Fingers.
Hi,
What's
Three
up?
Fingers.
Thanks for showing
Three
up.
fingers.
So
Bro.
that brings us to the other spiral, which is the pi spiral, which is very interesting. So let's there's our pi spiral. Look at this guy.
Whoa.
Okay, as it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. This is how we go within ourselves. Okay, the numbers represent it. Okay, now you find pi. The easiest way would be take the circumference and divide it by the diameter. And the smallest one that you can do that and make a circle and then still be able to make a diameter that you can divide it into creates 3.14. So there's a few other ways to find pi, but it gets increasingly more complicated. So this isn't a math show. This is a spiritual and development show.
Still.
But okay, the way he was talking about that cipher, there is a cipher found within this as well. Okay, same way as that Fibonacci sequence cipher, I believe I can build a cipher out of the sequence of pi. And I also believe, like how he found the sequence within the string of pi, that you can find sequences within the Fibonacci sequence, okay, which, let's see, no, that, do that. Oh, nope. Yup. Where's the good one? Oh, within the Fibonacci sequence, yes. Yep. All right. Well, I was trying to find the one with the actual numbers on it. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. Too far. Okay. Well, the one with the sequence of numbers on it. There it is. No. Why won't you find it? Why won't it load? Did it disappear?
It's playing hide and go seek.
It is. I clicked it on my tabs. I must have clicked it off by accident. Well, there it is. Ha!
Found it.
Okay. So within this sequence of numbers, okay, outside and inside, okay, the pi spiral, okay, you can find a connection. Now, the same thing goes for within ourselves. You can find a connection. Okay, let's see. Let's put us in the show. I don't know how to put that. Aha. So there's a sequence of things that happen within our life that later on affect us emotionally. Okay, see what I'm getting at? And the same thing is represented in the sequence of numbers. So there's a sequence that happens that triggers us, and it causes an emotional reaction, and then we spiral out of control. That's the pattern that happens. And the trick is to recognize your triggers and what causes you to lose control. Now, there's one of my favorite quotes, one of my favorite Bible quotes is James 1:19. It says, "Take note of this, brother. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." That is one of my favorite verses because it teaches you control. It makes it so people cannot create a reaction within you, because the second they are creating the reaction, they are the ones in control.
Mm-hmm.
What we see in our narrative today is the media keeps people in a fear state, keeps them reactive. As long as they're reactive, they're easy to control. The second you take that moment to think, to listen, to pay attention, and to be slow to become angry, or to be slow to have an emotional reaction, if we're going to really define it, then, but happiness is, you don't want to be slow to have that. You want to let that flow. So have a negative emotional reaction, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But anger, I think they chose anger because anger is the controlled one. You can control anger. Sadness, you cannot. When you feel sad, it happens. That just comes out. But anger is something to that. And there's something to the process of being able to control your anger, is recognizing what caused it in the first place, recognizing the pattern, the sequence. But you have to find the trigger within yourself. So you have to actually you have to open up your memory and find out what caused this initial imprint, what within the pi spiral sequence of numbers in my life, because our sequence of numbers is probably all different for all of us, but this is the one that they found for math. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What sequence of numbers caused this within me? And then you can recognize that sequence of numbers with, on the outside, and start to deal with it. And it allows you to take your power back. It allows you to take your reaction back. And the second people stop getting emotional reactions out of you, you start being able to get real with people in a different way. Because the people who are only there for the emotional reaction leave. They're only there for the drama. They're only there for the manipulation. They're only there if they can control you. So it becomes a filter in a way when you start really controlling yourself and allowing yourself to be the one at the wheel. So
that's very profound. I definitely needed this analogy today.
Okay.
So when you go back into the history of pi, you're like, well, what's the history of pi? Well, it says 4,000 years. Okay. At least I'm going to say, but we don't know our timelines. This is what they're saying it is. It's old. Okay. Pi is much more complicated. In fact, they've gotten close in a few different places, in a few ways, but it's still a lot more complicated. You compare that to the Fibonacci sequence, which they said Fibonacci 1170 to 1240 is a lot later. It's 1,000 years. Okay, at least difference in timeline. Well, this one we're talking 5,000 years. Okay, so is it because of these tablets and old tablets that they couldn't claim that some Italian person thought of pi? That cat had been out of the bag. But the golden ratio, they didn't quite have a tablet for, and people probably knew about it in certain social circles, but they still wanted to claim as their own. I think Fibonacci is a fib. I think that he may have been invented or as a collection of works found in the Vatican Library. And I think he's a name slapped onto something that has been much older and is from the time before us. And I think the evidence being that the golden ratio and pi were both known well before Fibonacci. Okay, the two things associated with it and connected to it, pi being another spiral itself, but the golden ratio being absolutely connected to it. I think that there's just too much evidence that the understanding of this place was there before him.
Right.
And I think the Romans and the Catholics and I think the Italians and whoever was in charge at that time, I think the empire shifts, but that's where it was then. Okay. The empire does shift, but it was there at that time. I think they were controlling their people were the ones with the knowledge. So therefore you're bolstering your own image by slapping your names onto it. So, and there's also you know, I've looked into the Library of Alexandria, and it's very, it's if it is a true story, it's the greatest one of book burning. You know, where that's where the knowledge of the old world, of that Tartarian Empire, of that old place that we seem to see remnants of, that's where it was, and it was lost. But they talk about ships getting out and the Vatican taking ships. And if you know anything about the Vatican Library, here's a few, is you're not allowed to go in there and just look around. In fact, if you want to look at anything, it has to be something already known. Okay,
What?
so you have to, yes. Okay, so in the Vatican Library is full of scrolls and scripts. So this is what I believe happened, and this is why, this is deductive reasoning, is they got a portion of the knowledge from the Library of Alexandria, not the portion to understand the knowledge. They took it back, and they took it back to the Vatican. They may have made a few stops at a few places along the way, but it got back to the Library of the Vatican Library, and they don't know what all of it is. They allowed, during a small brief time, they allowed certain people that they trusted and that they vetted to come and look at some of these things. The things that they could understand most easily were the ones with numbers, I think, and shapes, because mathematics is a universal language. So that's where they started, was with understanding the scrolls that had anything to do with math. Okay, so the language ones came later, if they got any of them translated, but I think there's still a ton of information down there that they have no idea what it is, that they won't look at it because it immediately breaks the narrative, and that they worked, that anybody who found an answer in one of their scrolls got to claim it as their own, even though we find evidence of this knowledge previous to such. So Fibonacci, being the son of a merchant, was a bartering man, okay? Was a man of numbers, was a man who understood decimal places, and a man who understood negative numbers and how to keep people in debt and things like that. Perfect empire use type character.
For real, though.
He's the type of person that would keep a secret and would be happy to put his name on the most universal ratio of our plane, which would be the Fibonacci sequence. So looking into spirals, you find that our toroidal field, our magnetic field, is also a spiral. Now, this isn't so easily represented as numbers. It's much more easily represented as colors and lights and energy, because it's ever changing as far as growing when we're excited or happy or absorbing energy, and shrinking when we're depressed and sad, or if we're needing to discover, if we're needing to find ourselves. And I think this collapsing inward actually is how we build, and that there's some evidence of that as well, like it's some star in the jar stuff and things like that, where like water would, the bubble itself would collapse on itself and would create a ton of energy, and they used pressure in the star of the jar experiment to do that. I think we put pressure on ourselves, okay, the same way, and we do that in order to grow, in order to better ourselves, in order to do what we think will make us complete, whole, you know, and to continue our pattern, our spiral. Right. So we work.
Ooh, that's pretty.
We work within ourselves in order to develop our energy outward. And I think these spirals connect our outside and our inside. So if you find yourself losing control, the first step, the first reaction is no action, actually, but it's no seen action. It's no perceived action from anybody else because it's an inward action. So no one will see that. No one will even know it except for you and the creator that you took that step, that you decided, oh, kids in masks. I can't handle this today. I may say something to the parent and lose my job because they're not even wearing them in the schools right now. Why is it in the mask in a grocery store, lady? Okay?
Seriously.
No. She's probably thinking it's protecting her kids. She's probably scared. She's probably brainwashed. She's probably watching a narrative that she thinks is correct, and she thinks she's doing the right thing, and she thinks that she's helping society by doing this.
Right.
We're still flattening the curve. So it's her perspective is wrong. And instead of just getting upset in the moment, I have to remind myself that it's got to be, she's caught up. This person's caught up. The people are caught up right now. And I got to see that soul, just see that original soul and be all right. And then if I get upset, okay, a few nights ago, it's late at night. I got to make coffee creamer. We make our own creamer. And I'm pouring milk. And I'm opening a can of sweetened condensed milk. And I knock over the milk I poured all over the counter. Late at night, I'm tired. It's the last thing I do before bed. And now I've got milk spilled all over everything, all over my mail and paperwork.
Oh, no.
And I have to clean it up. And it was like, I said, Wendy, no use crying over spilled milk, you know?
Right.
And it's like, the whole time I'm cleaning it, though, I'm trying not to react. I'm not trying not to be upset, because the second you start getting upset, it's now you're gonna have to deal with being upset and spilled milk.
Right.
I'm still gonna have to calm myself down and start in order to go to bed that night and things like that. And things like spilling something or something is an easy trigger for me, being autistic, or sticky things on my hands or something like that. There's simple things that when I was younger would trigger me all the time, and it would cause my life to change drastically because I had a breakdown.
Yeah.
So,
and just to build off, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Because you're talking about self-control, and it's mostly like emotional, but I feel like just to get put a different perspective on it, like for me, I would identify a lot with the self-control that comes with say over smoking, right? Like that's self-control. And so that's not me reacting to someone else. I guess why I would still need to go inwardly to figure out, why do I need to oversmoke today? Or why have I noticed this pattern over the last couple of days or weeks or whatever? Like what is it that I'm overeating, over smoking, like anything, any of those addictive personality things? I think that could be another side to look at, but it's still the same thing. I still have to look inwardly to find the answer of what it's causing, where's the root, how to breathe through it, because a lot of that is always pain, right? It's always an emotion that deals with something that's uncomfortable. I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone. Sorry. I feel like I generalized that a lot, but anyway, so just to give a new perspective, a different perspective on the self-control. I don't know. Would you consider that self-control?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like I tried to show both the outward spiral and the inward spiral, just because to show like that the things that affect us outwards, like the smoking and things like that. And I vape and I smoke and things like that. And, it's good to exercise those self-control moments. I mean, we recently cut pork out of our diet, like 5 months ago or something like that. Now, seeing bacon on pizza and all these things. And it's, we have to exercise self-control, but it's about being healthy and things like that. So I program this brain, I program this computer, and you have to remember that. Okay. It's like, what's programming the computer that is you, with the soul in it, the soul on it. So the soul can be the programmer, but the external could also be the programmer as well.
Yeah.
So
You have to allow the soul that time, right? Open up to it.
Mhm. Yeah, so definitely finding the ways to control those things that that help you get through the day, you know. Really, because it's realizing the that I don't need to smoke now because the reasoning for doing it before isn't there, or something like that.
Right.
Like it's this is a different moment. This is a different spot on the spiral. There's no repeating numbers, you know, on
Like,
on the spiral. This
yeah,
is an absolutely different moment. So you got to take every moment as its own.
as its
I think.
own, and not carry so much of the past into every present moment. Because, you know, I think it's important, you know, to remember, but it's a different thing to carry it with us, you know, because that means that we're still way down, right? Where we don't have any room really to grow until we let go, and having to acknowledge that I can let this go. This anxiety, I don't have this anymore. This isn't in my life. Like, this is something that this is just an echo of what used to be. I can let this go. Like, it's okay. Like, I can breathe, right?
Sometimes just the way your brain associates it helps you let it go or get over it. I mean, I used to have a lot of shame and guilt when smoking weed, because growing up in a Christian household and things like that. and
Same.
and it's just, but realizing that I didn't function the same as well. I cannot be as social. I do not have as much control. It gives me a little bit more control over myself, and allows me to build the friendships a little bit more before they see that side of me that isn't so in control, that I do talk about. I do try to prepare people for, but I in the past, sometimes I try not to be autistic. I try to be normal as long as possible until it comes out disastrously and things like that. But and marijuana will allow me to delay that. But it's, you know, it was a medicine for me, and it you know, it's not, it's a gift for me to help myself, and it becomes abusive when, like, you're using it to tune out from the world. But like, anybody who knows me is like, I am trying to learn more all the time. So I want this to help me focus so I can stay on one thing and to learn and to absorb more and things like that. It's like, I am not trying to escape from my emotions.
And I think that's where I'm at right now, is I'm learning that my escapist tendencies, because that's all I've really ever done is stick my head in the sand, like, you know, every other sheeple. And you know, as far as like weed goes personally, I feel like there was a time in my life that if I didn't have it, I would have killed myself. And so, you know, I have lost a lot of weight in the last couple of years. And so there was a lot of body issues, and I had like overeating, you know, gluttony. I had like maybe eating a food thing, like back and forth. Like, I was like skinny and like fat. Like, it was just like a lot of inner turmoil. Okay, guys. So like, letting go, it's for some people, it's not just one thing, you know. It's not just, you know, letting go is more than one finger, right? And having to acknowledge every single one is kind of tiring. It's like, oh my gosh, like, wait, I still have it. Oh, I have to let this go too. Oh, and this. Oh, and so this is tied in. Oh, and dad. Okay, all right.
Yeah, the parentals.
Yeah. Like, I feel like people don't talk about family enough, and how family it can be so damaging in a lot of different ways. And it's, you know, we don't have to place blame on our family members, but just allow us to be able to say that family hurts us.
They do.
They hurt, and that's because the closest people who are to you are the people who can hurt you the most, right?
Yeah.
So well, that was a tangent, but oh gosh, I don't know. So for me, like, I'm learning my escapist tendencies. I am trying to, continue to dig myself out of the well, because I see the light, and I feel like the truther community and the fact that I do know the truth now is one of the reasons why it's easier. Like I'm noticing more things because it's like, oh, everything is a lie. Like, this is deception. Like,
Yeah.
how can I sit here and be mad? Like, man, this weed. Who grew this? Like, it was probably some mobster, drugster, like trying to get my money, and it's going back to the Washington D.C. Like, right? Like eating my food. Like, I in the back of my mind, I'm just all the time like, what ingredients are in here? Like, there's just so many different things that.
Yeah. Did they have to put 2 kinds of aluminum in bread? Is that
bread?
necessary?
What?
Gourmet.
Seriously?
Gourmet.
Ew, gourmet. And did my
Fruit
mango
bread crap.
does my dried mango have to have colored orange, red,
Right?
and yellow?
Mango, what
green?
about pickles?
pickles?
Jarred pickles has yellow dye in it. Like, why?
Ew. And there are so many countries that the
Those
things that
fruits.
are in our food, like Kellogg's cereal,
Oh, it's
does
all
not.
banned.
They have two different brands of Kellogg. One that they sell to Americans, and the
Mhm.
ones that they sell to everyone else. That is like, come
So
on.
messed up. I know.
How messed up is that?
Well, I don't remember how long ago it was. I think it was like 4 or 5 years, but we had the opportunity in Washington to ban GMOs like Vermont did with Bernie Sanders. Although I'm not into politics or anything like that, but at least somebody tried to do something
Right.
about Monsanto. And I remember a lot of commercials about being anti-organic legislation. It was just the most crazy, insane. But yeah, I can't say Washington got
Mhm.
bullied, and they actually voted to keep GMOs.
Ew.
Yeah, well, it's what's irritating is that genetic modification in itself is not inherently evil. It's like
Right.
power. It's just like power. It's not inherently evil. It's what
Right.
you do with it. Because
Yeah.
I got a book back in 2004 and I don't have it anymore. But I got a few books. I got Level 4 Virus Hunters of the CDC. It was the two scientists that Outbreak was based on. And one thing I will say really cool about this is that they were looking for the vector animal for Ebola, and they never found one. And the first thing that they say about Ebola when you crack open the book is a picture of it. It says, "This thing is too perfect."
Was it a cartoon image? It probably is if you go back and look at it.
Well, if it's
It's
created
gotta
in
be.
a lab, there
Yeah.
would have to be an image of it because they could see it in the microscope.
Yeah. It's the image composite based off of a spectrum.
I don't have that
microscope.
book anymore, which is unfortunate.
Dang
But
it.
But yeah, it was all about, the conclusion that you come to after reading the book is that it had to have been created because they never found any original animal that could carry it.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Yeah, the animal that carried it was a human, and its vector was a syringe.
Thank you.
And then the other book that was really awesome that I wish I still had was all about genetic modification, about the medical applications, the food applications, which Monsanto sold us the golden rice, the golden lie. Really pissed me off because the book was, whoever wrote the book, I don't remember who anymore, but it was very promising. Golden rice, it was just a smoke screen. It was just a smoke screen to put Roundup in corn.
Yeah.
And that really pisses me off. But the book was also talking about how tobacco and sunflowers can already break down nuclear disaster crap. I'm blanking on the word for it. Radiation, radioactive material.
Well,
Tobacco and sunflowers can already do that.
in our understanding of radioactive material is it doesn't last nearly as long. It's not nearly as deadly.
No, actually, now
there's
that you look at
many
Chernobyl
forms-
and everything,
there's
it
many
looks
forms
pretty
of it.
normal.
Yeah, many
the-
forms of it.
some
So
of
it
the
seems
food
like
grown
that's
in
a
there's
lie
weird.
too.
It's all a
Oh
lie.
my gosh, it's all a lie.
It's all a lie.
Literally. And I don't want to like sound like a Debbie Downer, but like maybe that's all it is, like figuring out what deception is. Like just everything's a lie. Like we'll never know the truth, but we're supposed to be able to learn how to tell when we're being lied to, you know?
Yes.
Well, that's when we, get labeled being paranoid and crazy, and you have anxiety because you feel like everything's a lie. And when you talk about it, you get called paranoid, and it's all in your head because that's how I was raised.
I haven't found a way to tell that I'm being lied to, but I do find a way that I'm being manipulated. And that's when people use a lot of absolutes. Every, always, anytime. When they start spitting those at me all the time, I'm like, no. I can show you the Fibonacci sequence, okay? It's not always. It's not every time. It's not perfect, okay? I can show it to you. It's in the math. It's not.
Look at there. I like that. I like that. You remember that.
There is no absolutes. This is a 99% universe. Why? Because the other 1% is God, our creator, Yah. That's the other 1%. You can get as close, and you look at condoms, everything, okay? 99% effective. Why? Because there's always room for imaginative chaos.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. Which makes this realm so much more fascinating and so much more full of adventure. And it makes everything that we do so much bigger. We take bigger risks. If we could keep that in the forefront of our brain every single day, and then interact with ourselves, and each other, that is amazing right there. But that's what they don't want. Right? They don't want us to think about the other 1%, because if we have a connection to the Yah, God, creator, whoever you like to think, the source, okay, then you're harder to control, because whatever they want, whatever they are, whoever they are, they don't want us to be harmonious in real life. Well, they want a world that is just so much darker, and that's what they're allowed to have that thought, because we live in a world where it is the 99 percentile. And everyone can have their own free will, and no one is inherently evil, but everyone has a choice. Everyone makes decisions. Everyone everyone is accountable. And I feel like at the end, I'm still really iffy about this whole reincarnation deal, guys, because listen, like he said, he was raised Southern Baptist, me too, bro, pastor's daughter. I was all about in the Bible, all those absolutes. Jesus, is the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And I feel like in a lot of ways that is true. And then in a lot of ways, I feel like I still have to be open to the idea that can be true, and the reincarnation can be true.
Yeah, because how are you supposed to learn everything you're supposed to learn in one trip?
Right.
This is a real short trip. And it's real limited. And it's real limited. It's like there's a few key lessons focused on in my life.
Plus, I already feel like I've just been on this ride too many times.
You feel that way?
There's some old
I
souls.
was born just a grumpy old man in a little girl's body. One of my favorite descriptions of me from one of my friends is that I'm a lovable curmudgeon, which is a grumpy old man. I was just born like, what the fuck is this shit kind of attitude? I've always been like that. Like this again? Come on.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I don't know if I can say that, but I feel like I am an old soul, and I don't know. I feel like, okay, so if reincarnation is true, then wouldn't that mean that there is a finite number of souls? Like, wouldn't it be like cooler if it was
I've got a
You've got it.
theory.
Oh
I've
God,
got a theory.
tell me. Tell me.
When it comes to life energy and how much energy it takes to even create a soul with that has enough consciousness to operate a bug or a person or all of that. Okay, so it's like there's a consciousness stream of life, the web. We're all connected, and that energy that is created can never be destroyed. It can only transform and move on to something else. So in the consciousness stream, we're all just kind of constantly going in and out of it, tangenting up, tangenting down constantly, because this is a recycling plant.
Okay.
As above, so below. So we've got energy up above. We've got energy that moves through the ground, lava, electricity, magnetism. Everything is constantly churning, recycling, upcycling, downcycling.
Right.
And as far as human consciousness, like if you really did do a lot of bad stuff, all right, and you pass on, you do have a fair amount of darkness within you. Okay. So there's likely a threshold, but you still carry that karma, that darkness back with you to the next life. The karmic debt. You can't have karmic debt if we don't have reincarnation. And I'm getting all flustered and words are getting harder to come back to me.
No, take your time. Take your time.
As far as how dark is too dark to come back up, well, this is my theory, and I was inspired by the thought of what happens to pedophiles when they cross on, because that's a lot of darkness. That's a lot of darkness.
A lot of darkness, for sure.
So this is going to sound pretty twisted.
Tell me.
But basically, their souls get picked apart bit by dark bit until you're left with probably the tiniest speck of light that can go back into the stream, back into the consciousness stream. How much can that speck of light possibly
charring
power?
A pan, like a grill
maybe,
or something, like scraping it off.
Yeah.
It's like that charcoal.
Picked apart bit by bit. Oh,
I
yeah.
need a SOS pad, but
yeah.
Just to scrape all that darkness off.
Probably that's all that's left is enough to, give life to a blade of grass. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I see.
But yeah, so it's constantly, everything is constantly being recycled. The air, the water, the earth.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. If I agree with the recycling and the regeneration of the earth as like the toroidal field going back in and of itself, and if I do agree with the as above, so below, then it would make sense that I would be okay with the idea of souls as well, right? Like,
that also makes even more sense with it being a plane, a realm of existence, being the recycling plant that it is, as opposed to that rock spinning around in a vacuum that doesn't exist, because who gives an F about the consciousness stream and all that if it doesn't really matter. But it does matter. Because it's all right here.
Them making us not care is how they took our loosh away from us. How they took our ability to program ourselves, our ability to critically think. All this, they took it away from us by taking that, from us. That thought process of being part of it, that's
that profound connection, that I am worth something, I contribute, I matter type deal, that's exactly you guys.
And even though they use go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I knew I liked y'all.
They use the math to sell the lie, and now I'm using their math to bring us back to spirituality. because we have truthers finding the truth, already breaking down their lies one by one. But now I'm going back to the few truths that theirs is built off of, because there is some truth in their mathematic. That's how it works. They just scaled it up. They just built it out of control. Like I said, they found their dimensions to make it work, and then they built it from there. So they wrote it after the fact. In fact, even in, let's see, I'm trying to find it. In Fibonacci's work, it talks about him figuring out, working backwards. What he liked to do is he liked to have the answer and work towards the question, essentially. So it's a way that only works if you're trying to build a false reality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this backward working? I'm trying to find where I had in his writing section. I'm going to start taking better notes. See, I'm making adjustments to the show.
But you are so far ahead of the curve, though. Seriously, MK, because I feel like I was not as put together, as you were at the beginning, and I need to catch up.
I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've been really wanting to do it.
I'm glad you did. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I can't stay too much longer, though. Just FYI.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to put that out there. I do want to see what you were looking at, though.
Yeah, I was just looking for just the point in his autobiography, or his biography, that talks about. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's found it. Boom, and we'll zoom it in. It's zoom. Yeah, zoom. Okay. Oh, that's terrible. All right, let's see. It's there we go. The rules of false position. Okay, a method by which a problem is worked out by a false assumption, then corrected by proportion.
What?
Okay.
Does that even make sense?
No, but that's exactly how our globe lie worked. This is exactly it. This is it. The rule of false position. This is how they built it. They started with the problem worked out by a false assumption that we were on a ball that's, that has a diameter of, 12,000 miles, and that they used it to work it out backwards. And then they corrected all the proportions of it. And then they wrapped it around it. It's just right there. And so the fact that they talk about Fibonacci doing this, Fibonacci wasn't the one doing it. It was the whole the church, the leaders, the empire was doing this,
right?
Or if you really want to break it down, it's the evil ones, it's the dark ones, it's the freaking dark entities.
The dark entities. I'm starting to call them the bloodline, because I feel like they have passed down things to their children and their children. The thing that they took from us, right? Because we don't get to do that as much anymore.
There's a ritual in the Jewish religion called sitting Shiva. And when a relative dies, you have all the relatives gather around them. You cover all the mirrors, because mirrors are portals. And you have the relatives gather around that dead relative. So the soul of that relative attaches to one of the other relatives instead of leaving the plane.
What?
Okay.
What? And this is a Jewish thing.
This is a Jewish tradition.
Why am I not surprised?
To attach the soul to you. So when we're talking about souls sticking around and being around, and it's almost like Wendy said, they don't want it to go back to the scrubber to get scrubbed clean and to be a light again. No, we want to keep it here and dirty, and then scrub it, and then or then use it to our own will.
That is so ridiculous.
It's very interesting in that sense. So in that regard, I guess we will wrap up the show. Let me get my boom, 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 my banner. It says, you are only as smart as your last decision. Decide for yourself. And thank you for deciding to watch, everybody. And thank you, Ariel, for coming. Do you have anything?
Ariel.
Do you have anything coming up?
Oh yeah, so
Plug.
this Sunday, I've got a Sisterhood of the Warrior Queens with Dottie from Dottie's World.
Awesome.
This is the
Awesome.
week. Yes.
Ooh.
And Wendy, now that I have your number, we're gonna chat and get you on the schedule.
Absolutely. That'd be awesome.
I'm
And there's
excited.
talks of us doing Breaking the Chains this Wednesday. So
Yes.
if the universe willing, so we have
That
to
is
check our work
always
schedule.
so good. I love
Try to make it
those.
fit,
Those
so.
are always profound.
Yeah, it's gonna get pretty dark because part of drug abuse is trauma.
Yes.
So
Yes.
All right, so I'll leave you with one closing statement. Another false thing that science has given us is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And that is absolutely wrong and false. We have the ability to transmute. We can take a negative action and transmute it, okay? It will not have an equal and opposite reaction. It can have whatever reaction we want it to be because we are in control of that reaction. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is our ability. It does not have to be equal and opposite. It does not. We can absorb it and we can change it. So.
Oh wow! Thank you
That's
you
our
for
ability.
that.
All
that
right.
was the snaps.
Yes.
That one.
All right. We're gonna stop screen share. And then we're gonna share the final song. Let's see. Bam. And play out. All right, let's do this. All right. Thank you guys for coming. I'll see you next time. All
Bye.
right. Dynamic flow lights. Bye. All right, let's go.
What would you do?
That's a wrap.
You're wondering what life's about and what it really means. Nothing's what you thought it was and nothing's what it seems. Always stressed about the world and all the hurt that it can bring. But God is by your side, so don't you worry about a thing. You feel like you're so far away, no one can hear your screams. Even when you're sleeping, there's no comfort in your dreams. You're living while you're learning and the journey can be mean. But God has got your back, so don't you worry about a thing.
Every day just keeps repeating as you're passing through the seasons. Always struggling with something, always battling with demons. If it's happiness you're seeking, just be happy that you're breathing. They say everything that happens to you happens for a reason. Some days will be harder and some will be even harder. There'll be times when you feel like you just can't take it any longer. But don't think of giving up, cause there's really no need to bother. Anything that doesn't kill you is making you even stronger. Life will rip you open and then pick you apart. You wish you could have known that's how it is from the start. But when you feel like you're alone and things get bitter and dark, just remember that you're a soldier, there's no fear in your heart. You're able and you're capable. Your strength is unmistakable. Your faith is so unshakable. The pain's made you unbreakable. Any situation that you're facing, you can make it through. God planned it to be that way the day that he created you.
You're wondering what life's about and what it really means. Nothing's what you thought it was and nothing's what it seems. Always stressed about the world and all the hurt that it can bring.
But God is by your side, so don't you worry about a thing.
You feel like you're so far away, no one can hear your screams. Even when you're sleeping, there's no comfort in your dreams. You're living while you're learning and the journey can be mean.
But God has got your back, so don't you worry about a thing. If you put your mind to it, you can be unstoppable. Accomplish any goal you set or conquer any obstacle. Nothing that you cannot do, no problem is unsolvable. Just keep on holding on to hope and anything is possible. Keep on moving forward and stop living in the past. Start spending every minute as if it could be your last. All your dreams you are pursuing, you could get there in a flash. I know that you can do it if you get up off your ass. Time for you to do what you were born to do. The future will have so much more in store for you. At times it might seem like God is ignoring you. If you keep on knocking, he will open up the door for you. This is the beginning, you will hit the ground running. The life that you envisioned, you can feel it now coming. The weight is lifted, you don't have to sit around bugging. God is with you, you don't have to trip about nothing.
You're wondering what life's about and what it really means. Nothing's what you thought it was and nothing's what it seems. Always stressed about the world and all the hurt that it can bring.
But God is by your side, so don't you worry about a thing.
You feel like you're so far away, no one can hear your screams. Even when you're sleeping, there's no comfort in your dreams. You're living while you're learning and the journey can be mean.
But God has got your back, so don't you worry about a thing.
God has got your back, so don't you worry about a thing. God has got your back, so don't you worry about a thing.